Welcome back to the Chasing Common Ground podcast. My name is Chris. I am your host. I, as time goes on, will be lining up some guests for the show, but in the meantime, I wanted to set myself up so that I can be consistent with these episodes, so I have some ready to go. First and foremost, if you're watching on YouTube or if you're watching the video version on my Substack, side note, if you are subscribed directly to my Substack and you go into the app or you go to the website, you can watch the video version of at least most of the podcasts that way. If you can't find it on the Substack, all the video versions of the podcast are available on YouTube, and you'll find the YouTube just by searching for Chris Little. But I wanted to shed some light on this mug that I have. So the mug is All I Ever Wanted. And it's actually a podcast that I appeared on within the last year or two. And the reason I bring that up is because that is a mug that I was gifted by the host of that podcast. His name is Chris. I don't know his last name, so I call him Millionaire Chris. I reached out to him recently. We've been meaning to get together to have him on my podcast. So there's a good chance you're going to get to learn more about him. But if you want to hear my episode on his show, you can find that by searching for All I Ever Wanted, Chris Little on YouTube. You're also going to find it on a lot of other platforms. You'll find it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc. But I just wanted to pay tribute to that because it's going to be really fun getting to know him. He's somebody that I got to know through the pandemic because of actually like a really cool community initiative that he did. He's someone who basically retired in his early 30s. So his story is really cool. He's super into fitness too, and he has a lot of unique life experience that has been really cool for me to just be around, to learn from, and does a lot of amazing initiatives in the city that he's pretty quiet about. So all that to say, we are going to be continuing our series of answering questions, the questions that we started off answering in a previous episode, and we're going to continue with that theme because I had a lot of fun with it. And if you ever have any questions about the things that I talk about, or you want to dig into the context, or maybe I said something that kind of seemed short-sighted, or maybe it seemed insensitive, and you just want to dive into it further, I'd encourage just reaching out to talk. You can find me on Instagram. You can reply to my email if you get this in your Substack. You can email me, chris@invigoratetraining.com. And I'll be happy to discuss further because honestly, when it comes down to it, if I'm giving examples, these are examples that only apply in very specific scenarios. And there's a good chance that I'd be able to see a nuance in your scenario where maybe the thing that I talked about didn't quite apply to you, or maybe I'd be more open-minded to your approach than what you think. Or perhaps it just might be a learning moment for both of us where you walk away with something, I walk away with something. That's why there is beauty and value in connecting. First question here is, how do you incorporate mindfulness or meditation into your training and nutrition coaching? This is a cool one, and it comes up probably more with my online clients than my in-person clients, just simply because of like the amount of time that I have that I can spend with online people. It's not like I'm like on a video call with them 24 hours a day, but they have access to text me and ask me questions at any time that comes up, and I'm going to answer. And so there's a lot of cases where we get talking about kind of like building lists, or I give book recommendations, or we talk about routines. Like for some of my clients, we've talked about a routine where we maybe dial back on the time spent on social media because it just gets us comparing ourselves to other people, comparing our journey to somebody else's journey, feeling self-conscious, getting distracted, losing productivity, running out of time for the workout simply because we are just scrolling. And so I wouldn't say I have like a formal way of which I incorporate this mindfulness or meditation, but it definitely does come up. There's a lot of people who kind of like live in this state of fight or flight, where if they just simply woke up 20 minutes earlier to set out their lunch for the day, to keep their nutrition on track for that part of the day, to journal about maybe what their plan was, their intention for the day, their to-do list, and just kind of like start things off a bit slower where you can just kind of settle into the day. The other thing that comes up often that I find to be helpful is just like end of the day. You got your book, you got your pen, and you just write down everything that is bugging you, everything that's on your mind, everything that's stressing you out. Sort of like talking to a friend, but just having your own space, your own way of decompressing before you fall asleep so that all these things don't live rent-free in your head all night long, keeping you awake, keeping you thinking, disrupting your sleep quality. The next question here is, in what ways has mindfulness changed your approach to fitness and life? For me, I almost have to like engineer it into my day. The biggest example that I have that I used in the most stressful parts of my career was before I was getting my certifications, I would do these vision quests. Now, what defines a vision quest, you may ask? For me, a vision quest is you get in the car, you go to somewhere with mountains, and you just walk in those mountains for a super long time. And you think about stuff. You may have been listening to an audiobook on the way out or a podcast, and you just reflect. And you think about what you want out of life. You think about what's on your mind, what are your goals, what do you wish would happen, what's your plan, what's your backup plan, what you like about life, what you don't like about life, what do you want to do. You just let all these things brew. And in a lot of cases, by structuring out that time to do all these things, you come out of it with a bit more clarity and a bit more of a plan. The other way that I structure this in, if life is a bit more chaotic, I have gone to float studios in the past because it's just one of those places where it's like they're going to put you in there for like an hour unless you just want to waste your money and leave right away. But they give you the option to be there between an hour and an hour and a half, depending on the facility and depending on like the schedule timing. And you're just floating. It's dark. You got no phone. Ideally, you have no phone. You shouldn't have a phone. You're just weightless in a sense. It gets a little bit weird because it can feel a little bit clammy or claustrophobic for some people. So it works for some people, doesn't work for others. But in past years, it worked for me because maybe I couldn't make it out to the mountains. I just needed a plan B, just something that I could do where I could just think for an hour, be with my thoughts, unpack some things, decompress. Think about what matters, what doesn't matter. Think about a game plan. Come out of there with like a clear mind, feeling more relaxed and ready to crush it. Then the last way that I would say mindfulness has changed my approach to fitness and life is that like where I've fallen off track, where I've gotten to the point where I was like, okay, I've got to do this or else I'm going to drown. I've got to do this or I'm going to fail. And just you get so caught up in all of that stuff that you forget how to just chill. And in some way, Jiu Jitsu has helped me to chill. Because in Jiu Jitsu, there's no phone. You got that thing in your bag. If it rings, everybody's going to have to pay for it. In the sense that like you don't want to create the disruption in the class. And if somebody knows that you are the disruptor, they're probably going to call you out and make you feel kind of dumb. So you put your phone on silent, you keep it in your bag, keep it in your car, whatever you got to do. So even if a plumber is trying to reach you or your colleague is trying to get a hold of you, like they just can't for that period of time. You got it blocked out in your calendar. Nobody can book Zoom calls with you. And while you're getting murdered, you have this time to think about life. Not too intensely, really, but just enough to be like, okay, none of this actually matters. This dude is trying to kill me. Let's focus on that. And that is life. You are surviving. Because sometimes we feel like we are dying and we haven't even left our house. We've just been looking at a screen all day. And so then when you put yourself in a situation where like somebody who is capable of murdering you but is kind enough not to is putting you in that state of panic where you have to like slow your breathing. Think about your technique. Think about how you are holding yourself, how you're positioning yourself. What is good defense? What is bad defense? What kind of technique are you going to try and is it going to work or not? how to not get injured, like all these other elements that actually carry more weight in the grand scheme of things. And that is, I guess that's why I like Jiu Jitsu, is because my life is very go, 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 go. And that is one thing that I can guarantee slows things down. Even if it's chaotic when I have to get out of there, it slows it down for just enough that I can go, ha, and then back to the grind. So that is, I think, my best answer for talking about how mindfulness has changed my approach to fitness and life. It allows me to take on more things and be more ambitious than I would have been otherwise. So, can practicing mindfulness enhance athletic performance or nutrition habits? I think it could, but I think you'd have to find a mindfulness that suits you. So, like, watching Jay Shetty or some, like, widely known motivational, mindful monk kind of guy won't necessarily solve world problems, but in being more focused on the things that truly matter within your lifestyle, you might find clarity in like the tasks throughout your day that have like the biggest return on investment. So spending a whole bunch of time picking out which shirt to wear won't really matter, because not a lot of people are going to remember what shirt you wore in the first place. And sometimes it doesn't matter anyways. You wear a shirt, you don't wear a shirt. You probably need to wear a shirt, so just pick one. Whereas if we dedicated that time to being like, okay, I need to hit my protein goal. I need to get 30 grams in this meal. An egg has 7 grams. I'm going to need to have like not just one egg, but like maybe like 3 eggs. And then maybe I'm going to have like some ham with that to help me to get that goal. Like that's how you can follow through with a process to make progress. And so that could be how it could enhance your nutrition habits, because you've learned to take a step back from like the decision fatigue and what you're going to wear, if you're going to tuck your shirt in or not, and you've decided to switch gears in what you're going to eat and how you're going to move that day. Are you going to go to the gym after work, before work, at lunch? Are you going to go for a walk? Who are you going to go for the walk with? Where are you going to go for the walk? Are you going to sign up for dodgeball to keep your activity up and make it fun? Or are you going to get a gym membership somewhere with a bunch of cool machines so you can just mindlessly exercise? Or are you going to hire a trainer so that you actually know what to do and you have some guidance and you have somebody waiting for you that's like counting on you to be there, so you can't skip it because they are billing you? There's a lot of different ways to look at it, and if you ever had questions on that, feel free to reach out. But we're going to go on to the next question, and it is, what impact do you think social media has on people's fitness goals and self-image? This is one that is kind of funny because I can get pretty ranty on it, but for context, I work within social media pretty deeply. And some people don't quite know what I mean when I say that. But what I'm saying is that like some of my projects are producing social media content that's designed to engage people. For me, I try not to be polarizing. It's mostly just through the quality of the stuff or the connection it brings. Like if I am marketing a home show or if I'm marketing a local store, I like to showcase the owners. I like to showcase like why they chose certain products. I like to showcase the customers, and that's how I connect. That's how I keep it engaging. But where the impact could exist on a person's fitness goals and self-image is that comparison thing. The simplest way to put it is that social media is real, but it's not real. Like you can have your perception of me and how I show up, and my hope is that you'd get a general vibe that I'm a pretty positive guy. And I've learned to kind of keep the tone pretty positive on social media, in the sense that like if I have a bad day, I'm probably not going to create a post about it, because I've done that in the past and it feels authentic and it's genuine, but I don't think it pushes the envelope in the way that, like, just taking some time off social media, seeing a counselor, maybe taking some time away from work, seeing my family, all those factors tend to help more than a vulnerability post. But what tends to happen is people kind of like, they make up this version of somebody else in their head, and it can either make them feel jealous or hate them or misunderstand them or take things out of context, and all of a sudden they've got this story in their own head about how things are, or maybe that they're falling short, or they are not enough, or they haven't done enough in their life, or they're making less, etc. There's so many times I've had conversations with people, and that person has like a bigger social media following than I do, and I'm talking about the things that I do, and because I have a small social media following, they are talking to me like I'm on food stamps. And that's fine because I don't care. But it's just curious to me, because you should go into your connections with people with an open mind, understanding that everybody has something to offer. And if you have an initial connection that is beneficial, you should lean into that, because there's probably a lot more that you can learn from that collaboration, whether it be that you help each other, or maybe like this is just an opportunity to grow and learn and kind of get the benefits from human connection. So what I would say is, take social media as a snapshot of a person's life and not their entire identity, not everything that makes them who they are. And if something piques your interest, ask questions. If somebody says something that you're like, it doesn't sound like them, or oh my goodness, that seems like way out of context, or I disagree with that, or why did they say that, or just like whatever it may be. Or maybe they're passionate about something. Start learning about the thing they're passionate about. Try to see life through their eyes. And that makes social media a lot easier to understand from the lens of like, how can this make your life better? Like, if you understand more about people who are different than you, your life gets better. If you understand less about people who are different than you, you're more likely to get frustrated when those differences make themselves present. And then you end up down this rabbit hole of looking for only people who confirm everything that you deem to be true. And you're less likely to change your mind. You're less likely to adapt. Sudden changes will completely rock your world, where you just don't know what to do. Difference of opinion will have you shutting down and getting anxious and stressing out. Whereas if you're willing to ask questions, spend time with people offline, dig into the context behind the things that they're passionate about, whether it's the world events, whether it is a certain celebrity that they like or don't like, etc. And obviously you have like the agency to make your own decisions and come to your own conclusions. But I feel like you're just going to be more at peace if you learn to connect with an open mind and open heart and ask better questions. Like, be like, why are you doing this? Or what made you want to start this? Or ask people just to hop on a call with you. Or for me, if it's somebody that I don't have much access to and I want to learn more about them, I will just go back and listen to a whole bunch of their podcasts, or I'll read their articles and just get a wider view of their body of work or how they show up to things. And for the people who have disappointed me the most, they consistently disappoint me. For the people who have surprised me, they may have said something that got taken out of context and got blown up. And then I saw their character across multiple situations. I was like, I think this person is consistently misunderstood. And by coming to that point of enlightenment, it made my life better. Because then I was able to connect with more people than I would have had I jumped to conclusions immediately. Hopefully that all makes sense, because we're going to get to the next question here, and it is, how do you navigate the balance between inspiring others and promoting realistic expectations in fitness and nutrition? Oof. With ease, I tell you. I I realized that I could be like the ambassador to an active lifestyle because I like working with general population. I've never been like, oh man, put me with the athletes. I want to work with the most athletic people in the world. I want to work with the NHL players, etc. That's not quite me. If anything, put me in the dressing room and I'll give a pep talk. I'll hype them up. I'll play their music that they like. But that's about where it ends. I just want to get more people so that they enjoy their life. And to enjoy your life, you got to be strong. To enjoy your life, you got to have good mental health. To enjoy your life, you have to have a sense of community that comes with fitness, that comes with getting out of your house because you have a reason and you have an ability to do so. And so the way that I navigate the balance between inspiring others and promoting realistic expectations is I tend to just simply lead by example. And some of the ways that I've done that are creating something I call the Park Far Away Club, where I will post a picture of a grocery store that I'm parked at, where I'm parked significantly far away, and I'll just say Park Far Away Club. And other people park far away from the grocery store to get their extra steps too, and they put Park Far Away Club, and then they tag me on Instagram. And it's a beautiful thing. And what that does is it sustainably increases the walking that people would do over and above what they would have done if they weren't part of Park Far Away Club. Because a lot of people, they park as close as they can. They go to the grocery store maybe like once or twice a month, maybe several times a week. Kind of depends on the person. And these steps add up. And where it really paid off is in the times that I've worked at a mall. I would park on the opposite end of the parking lot on the opposite end of the mall, and I'd actually get a pretty substantial walk-in several times a day. And that's when Park Far Away Club really shone, because I could actually have like body composition changes based on this one lifestyle change. So it can be pretty dramatic, but it's realistic and it's accessible. The other ways that I've tried to do this is just showing people when I'm walking, to remind them subliminally or subtly or annoyingly that walking is good for you. And walking could be that lifestyle intervention that had a huge impact on how your body feels, how it looks, how the choices that you make throughout the day. Like, rather than being, it's just, I'm not going to go outside, I'm just going to order in. Whereas if you go for a walk and it's like, wow, that's beautiful out, I'm just feeling like super, super excited about life. The sun was shining. A dog smiled at me. Like, life is good. I'm going to cook some food. Like, sometimes it can change your outlook by getting outside for an extended period of time, moving one foot in front of the other. And the other thing I would say to be realistic is I realize that not everybody can walk. And so I always try to toss in that wheel thing. Like, you roll with your wheelchair, ride your bike, do a rowing machine, get out to the North Saskatchewan, hop in a canoe, whatever you can do that thing. So truthfully, I'm hoping that answers that question, but it may have been a bit of a rambling one. But that's no reason not to move on to the next question that we have, which is, have you ever had to reassess your relationship with social media to protect your mental health? Yes. But not in the way that you'd think. I think it just kind of came with maturity, like as I got older and as I kind of experienced different like connections shift and change. I just kind of like, my lens got smarter. I was able to kind of like discern between genuine and disingenuine. And I just stopped caring like how many people followed, who followed, all this other stuff, because it's just like the number of people that I've just poured my heart and soul into on social media where they blocked me, or the people who I've worked for that have blocked me. And it's just, you experience that enough and it's just like, well, this is mostly weird. I didn't do anything. So after you experience a bit of that, then you just kind of connect with people who connect with you. I've got a lot of people that like watch this podcast or listen to this podcast that are very closely connected to me, which means a great deal to me personally. You might hear some sirens in the background, a little chaotic out here. But if you don't, you're lucky. But basically, to get back to what I was talking about here, is when I'm looking at social media, I'm kind of looking at it as an opportunity to be engaged with the people that I love and care about, the people who I help, and hopefully find more of those people to the degree that it supports my livelihood, that it helps me to be part of something bigger than just myself, where perhaps the connections that I make lead to other people doing jobs that they like, or other people having a good quality of life. And it doesn't always have to be about me. It could be about me empowering a colleague, maybe a younger trainer that I've helped, or maybe another business that I've helped with their marketing. That's what social media is for me. There's great merit, value, and purpose in growing a brand. And that is something that is not out of the cards. Like, it's something that I would do, but I enjoy how I show up to social media, because you can send me a message and I'll answer. You can be connected with me. You can feel like I'm speaking to one person on the podcast. And it just feels like I'm just existing. I'm not having to put on a filter. I'm not having to be anybody but myself. I can be passionate. I can be long-winded. A lot of people say I'm long-winded, very rambly, very talkative. And that's just who I am. And so I show up that way. And I refine it as each year goes by. I get more concise. I get more eloquent. I get more wise. I get more bald. And that's just the way she goes. So that is how I would say that social media kind of plays a role for me. The thing is that for people who haven't experienced this sort of like level of tranquility, they will immediately look at other people and think, I have to be where they are. Or they'll look at somebody else's picture and be like, that is real. I need to be like that. And like, I have a lot of experience with what technology can do, what Photoshop can do, with the extreme lengths that people will go. Like, I have watched people take 26 pictures and say, nope, that's not good enough. I need to take a different one. And I thought all the pictures were adequate. And because of that, I often take very ridiculous photos of myself. Like if I'm saying good day for Jiu Jitsu, or if I'm posting, like I recently went to the Sphere in Las Vegas and posted a bunch of selfies, and I coined it as boomer selfies, because it's just a silly angle. I'm making a silly face, and it's just not flattering. But it's just like, your boy went to the Sphere. That's what I did. And there's no comparing to me. You want to go to the Sphere? Go to the Sphere. If you can't get to the Sphere, ask me about how the Sphere was, and I'll send you some videos. Like that's all it is. You look up YouTube, learn about it. But it's not like some kind of, you can't touch me, you can't reach me, I'm too good for you kind of thing. It's just, I'm just documenting what I'm up to, and I'm just showing you like it is. Because then you can't compare yourself to me, ideally. But the tricky part is when you get so deep in the weeds of comparing yourself that somebody would compare themselves to me showing up like that with my boomer selfie. They're like, oh man, like he's just putting on a facade, or he's just too perfect. He's just never grumpy. I'm like, sometimes my sense of humor comes out when I am grumpy. Or sometimes I write out a list of things I'm going to do, and I tell everybody I'm going to do them, and I just don't do them. And that's just doesn't feel right with me. But it happens. And that's just how life goes. So hopefully that kind of helps you get more clear on how you can kind of create boundaries with social media, understanding that it is just like one of the many tools that we have in life. Just like we have a car to go places faster, we have social media to connect with people more efficiently, to storytell, to share information, to build a sense of community that means more when we connect with them offline than it does if we're exclusively only connected online. Like that's where I got a lot of value out of the fitness summit, was because I've made connections online, but there's some of these people that mean a great deal to me that I had never met in person before. And so I got to do that. And some people who I talk to every day that I've seen like 2 or 3 times in my life. And so I got to see them again. So those are like where social media's role is. So my hopes are, if you could take one thing away from that answer, don't compare yourself. Stay focused on your journey of just being better than you were. And if you're going to compare yourself to anyone, compare yourself to just you. Just be like, well, we learned something today and we're going to be better tomorrow. And then the next day you rinse and repeat. That's the comparison. Not comparing yourself to like, well, that person became financially independent at 25 and I am not. So I am failing, because that doesn't make sense. They give all these comparisons, or just outlines, I should say, or examples of people who reach certain milestones in their life at very, very times. Like some people becoming a parent at 16, some people becoming a parent at 42. It's varied, but they have similarly fulfilling outcomes. Some people passing away at 16 and others passing away at 80. And that's just the cards they're dealt. Wouldn't matter how much they compared themselves on social media. I don't think the cards would have changed. And if they had dwelled on those comparisons and those contrasts, that wouldn't have helped them. So hopefully that gives you some clarity of how to move forward if you're a really big social media person. And if you're not, that's no worries. Just keep listening to the podcast. I would encourage you, if you are not on social media and have no reason to be on it, just hang out here. Just listen to the podcast. Next question is, we've got, how do you define holistic health and why is it important? Holistic health can be framed in many, many ways. For some people, it's like, we're going to set you up with all these supplements. We're going to set you up with very specific workouts, like designed specifically for specific bodily functions and stuff. Like, you get super in the weeds with so many things that are almost like handcuffs you from being able to take action. So when I define holistic health, I like to think about it in terms of, not only are we talking about your fitness and nutrition, but we're also talking about your social connections. We're talking about your appreciation for your environment, both like the room that you're in, the home you're in, but also just like the scenery that you have. So for some people, holistic health could be they get seasonal depression from living in Canada where there's less sunlight, and they make a move and they live somewhere further south where they get more sunlight as part of their holistic health. For other people, they take the Danish approach, and I have Danish heritage, so shout out to Denmark and my Danish relatives. And they take the approach of living the hygge life. So it's HYGGE, and it's simply just understanding that in the region that they live, with the climate that they have, sometimes the weather can make you feel kind of sad and cold. And so you just simply create an environment of coziness and comfort to make life more exciting. So whether that be lighting candles or having a book and a reading chair or cozy blankets or a tea that you really enjoy to just kind of set the tone in those dark, dark evenings. So that's kind of how I look at holistic health, and I expand on that further by encouraging people to take walks in nature, encouraging people to go on adventures to the mountains, encouraging people to enjoy the river valleys and parks of the urban centers, or go on adventures to staging areas where you can go on these long walks and see wild animals. That's sort of like my take on holistic health. I also encourage people to have some involvement in a garden. Not to say we all have to be gardeners, but maybe you pop by the farmer's market. Maybe there's a family member with a garden. Like for me, my parents have a garden, so I try to help out in some way, shape, or form, even if realistically I'm helping them with computer stuff and they're helping me with food stuff. It balances out. I stick to my expertise, they stick to theirs, and I just try to pour into them as much as I can, because they definitely pour into me. But that would be my take. It's something that is like, it's going to be a little bit different from person to person, but I don't like to make it so complicated that people feel like they just need to like really step up to step into that lifestyle. And this isn't to belittle anybody who has a slightly different definition or perhaps a different protocol for like how they implement holistic health, because there's holistic nutritionists, there's holistic all kinds of things. So I can understand that it's very situational specific, and I have lots of friends who have different offerings of their fitness and nutrition services where it could be misconstrued that I would be like saying that that wasn't good. I'm just telling you about my style, and that's the way she goes. This last question before we finish off this episode is, can you share an experience where focusing on holistic health dramatically improved someone's life? This one's pretty easy. It's just such a common thing to find people have gravitated away from like something they used to really love. So I'm going to tell you a story about a client that I've worked with online locally here in Edmonton. And for a while, she really enjoyed going for walks and bikes outside. It was something that she would do regularly. And the pandemic threw things off. And it made her knees hurt. And it made her unhappy with just how her body moved and how it felt and how it looked. And so what we essentially did to start with was we found a way to, we built a rapport. So like communication was key to online coaching in this scenario, in the sense that like we set expectations that we were going to communicate pretty frequently over text, just to kind of like make sure that she was understanding her program, making sure that she understood everything with regards to her nutrition. She wasn't big on tracking, so we just kind of worked on portion sizes and food choices. And then through that, she started to gain benefit from following a strength program for the first time ever. And then she started to report to me that her knee pain started to dissipate. She didn't feel pain when she walked anymore, and this was new. But then what's more is she used to have back pain throughout her workday, and it was just like her back would just hurt from these long 8-hour days. And it would suck because you get home and all you feel like doing is laying down. Like you just want to lay down with the cat and read a book. You don't want to do a workout. You don't want to go for a walk. You don't want to do anything else. And so if you didn't get that much activity through work, like you maybe have walked and done steps, but it wasn't quite 10,000 or 12,000 or 14,000 or anything to really impact the energy balance, just enough to like remind you that you're alive. But all this to say is she benefited from the strength training, which then led to us talking more about the different lifestyle fitness ways that she could do to be active, because we were fairly focused on the step count, because it just kind of allows you to be into a higher energy balance, which not only affords you more energy, but gives you more flexibility to enjoy in social events, have the piece of cake, not be so meticulous in the measuring of things like potatoes and rice, etc. So when she started to feel like she could do more things, then she started to go on more walks. She'd go on really long walks on weekends. We actually met up and went for a walk in one of the Edmonton River Valley parks, and it was like a 3-hour walk where she felt no pain. She got to enjoy the scenery, got to enjoy good conversation. We had great conversation, and that is how she got to enjoy holistic health benefits in her life, because she got not only exercise, but exercise in building community and being around nature and hearing the birds. And she started doing her workouts outside too, to just enjoy the sunlight and the fresh air. And it completely changed her life. I also got her a new job. It was pretty epic. That is what happened. That's like what happens when people work with me online. It is what it is. If you want to work with me too, send me an email, chris@invigoratetraining.com, or you can follow me on social media at Christian Little, Liddle. Currently working on the website still, but that'll be up sooner rather than later. And if you have any questions, if you got this in an email, reply to the email. Or if you want to support, take a screenshot, share it on social media. Or if you want to hear more of these, go to YouTube, subscribe to me on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Leave me a rating, 5 stars, leave some kind of a review. I always get excited. I usually like show my parents, be like, I got a review. So if you want to hear that happened, leave one. But thank you for joining me again. and we will catch you on the next one.